to the to the party. Thanks, Kat. Our secrets are safe. It's so funny. I don't like, I like to have a nice opening and clean and everything and all that. So now you see what it's like. We're like, okay, are we ready to go? We get the lipstick on. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. So now you know all of the magic behind the scenes, everybody, to get us present and happy, present and happy. Well, welcome in, and I want to extend huge welcome to my friend. I'm going to call you my friend, Paulie, because we've been, gosh, when did we meet? Like a
Year and a
while ago,
half, 2 years ago.
a year
Yeah.
and a half or 2 years ago, yeah. And Paulie has just been such an inspirational partner to me, someone who is just, what do I want to say? It's like you meet adversity with what's the best that can happen attitude.
Mhm.
And it's really unique. And I appreciate that about you with the different challenges we all go through, and then that we uniquely as individuals go through. And Polly is someone who really cares, who really strives to find the joy in life and work, and has a book about it, even to help us keep that joy alive at work. And so I wanted to welcome Polly in. And I'll have you introduce yourself in just a moment, Polly. But before I do that, Lourdes and Mimi, I wanted to introduce part of the team. We've got Lourdes. Do you want to say
Hello.
hi? Calling in from beautiful Minnesota. And Mimi, where are you calling in from?
Long Island.
Out from Long
New York.
Island. Yeah. And our California friend, she's Anne Marie's off in Is she at Yellowstone today? Okay. So
Yellow.
we're missing Marie, but we wish her a very nice trip in Yellowstone. So Lourdes and Mimi are going to go into the background here, but what their job is they're going to be monitoring the chat, monitoring the Q&A. We keep everything anonymous here, so you can ask all of your dumb, which means not dumb, questions. We want you to feel safe to ask any question. We won't share your name. This is totally private. That's why we use the Zoom webinar platform rather than other platforms where you can't be anonymous. So we do this for all of our sessions because we want to create that place where it's safe to talk. Yeah, it's really important to us. So Polly, why don't you, if you wouldn't mind, introduce us, tell us about yourself for a moment.
Paulie Skaja. I keep getting asked, how do you pronounce your last name? Just like it sounds, or just like it looks, right? So Paulie Skaja. And I will start by saying my purpose in life is to help others. A lot of people try to figure out what their big purpose is. I learned very early on that my purpose is to help others. And I also learned at a very young age that coaching is in my DNA. And so if you remember as a kid, we'd always get the Sunday paper, and the Peanuts cartoon was one of the top ones. And I remember the day that I saw Lucy in the strip, and it was psychiatrist in 5 cents, right? And I said, that's what I do. Like as a little kid, people always came to me. And so the fact that I'm doing what I do now makes complete sense. And I
Mhm.
always tell people when they're trying to figure out what's my next step in my journey, I tell them, look back to how did you have fun, or what was most natural for you as a kid? Because
Mhm.
those things you did to play, or those things that just came naturally, are part of who you are and give you insights into where you want to go. If someone asked me when I was a kid, what are you going to do when you grow up? How would I have said coach? Like that wasn't, I'm not going to coach a sports team, but that was the type of coach that was around then. Um, my very first job, I was a welder, and people
Stop
ask,
it. You were a welder. I forgot that.
yeah, yeah.
Such a badass. Oh my God. Of course you
So
were a welder.
I was a welder, I was a bartender, and so I did all these crazy jobs and had a lot of fun. I was the only girl in IT in high school.
Mhm.
I hung out with all the guys, and I got straight A's. And when I went on to college, I was really great at breaking systems. And I helped companies figure out the bugs in their software that they had our school using. And I'm like, well, this must be an indication. And someone said, yeah, that you should stay out of IT. Fast forward, I wound up as a temporary job doing duplicate data entry for an ERP implementation. Why does
Mhm,
that matter? Because
mhm.
since then, I've helped many companies with their ERP implementations
Yeah,
or
yeah,
with their strategies and their global. So, a little about me, I just am always looking at what's the next step, what's that stepping stone, and then looking at how does what I did tie to where I'm going. Because it
mhm.
all is a journey, even if we don't understand it. When we look
Yeah,
back, you can start to see the dots connect. And I'm
yeah,
really great at connecting dots other people don't see. So, anyways.
yeah. Do you mind? I think you are a rarity in that you are a coach that works internally at companies. Can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about what that's like? Because I think a lot of people don't understand the type of things that you're working on. Do you mind taking a moment
Yeah,
to explain
no.
that a
Yeah,
little bit?
yeah. And I absolutely love it. So way back when I started and I became a consultant and I was doing project management, um, companies didn't know they needed a project manager, but people were saying you need a project manager. And what is that? I was never formally trained. But to me, a project is no different than throwing a party. And so it's like, we've got an end result we want, and here's all the pieces we have to put together, and here's who we have to work with, and blah, blah, blah. So, anyways, fast forward, um, I was really great at project management because I was really great at bringing people together to get the
Mhm,
job done. I
mhm.
was working in an agile manner before the agile manifesto was even a thing. So when it became this huge, oh, you got to do this, it's like, what's special about this? This is how I've always done everything. And this is how I've set my
Well,
teams
I'm
up.
sure a man put that framework together, so that's why it's special, Polly.
17 of them did, actually. So, yes, on a ski weekend in Snowbird, Utah. Just, anyways. And so, and so
Let me
I,
hold up my mug again.
there you go. Yes, yes, exactly. And so I have always worked with people and brought them together. Then I took some time off to actually help open a charter school for my community. And it became the largest charter school from scratch in the state of Minnesota. We had 253 kids our very first day, K-8. We had waiting lists in every grade except seventh and eighth. And the kind of really cool thing is I dedicated 4 years of my life to making this happen. Like I got paid $4,000 for 4 years. And which is
Wow.
right, which is kind of crazy because I was an independent consultant making 125 an hour to myself. And I went
Mhm,
from that to nothing. Thankfully, I had a husband who could support the family, and I was always the icing on the top. And so I had the flexibility to do what needed to happen for the community. That school is an award winning school. It opened in 2004 and it is still going strong. And it now is K 12, which is
oh,
really
wow.
cool. Yeah.
Wow, Polly, that's
So it's
amazing.
kind of fun to know you start something like that. And I'm a visionary and I see what's coming before people tend to be able to see it, right? So we learned a lot of lessons. I took them to the Department of Education, and then I was going to go back to consulting, and my family said, no, we want you to be home. And everything that I've done all had coaching components with business and strategy. And so I went on and I got 18 months worth of education and became a certified life coach. And so I got my master's practitioner in NLP, HNLP, and hypnosis.
Oh,
And I did a lot of individual coaching and I was really
no
great
wonder
at it.
you're so good. I didn't know you had that alphabet soup, but like she's good, you guys. Like she's real good, but now we have the validation.
Oh, it gets better. So anyway, so I was working with individuals and then I started going into corporations and helping them with team building because everything, if you look at a project, all a project manager does is helps teams play nice. It's not the technology that's the problem, it's the people. And so if you can help the people play as a team, and so then a lot of the problems I help people with was their work related circumstances. And then work
Mhm.
kind of ekes into their personal lives, but it's easier to talk about work. Fast forward, I got hired to be a program manager for a company, and I just started doing my practices. But by this time, Agile was a thing. And now they're like, "Ooh, can you help?" So I fell into this coaching thing, and I've literally fallen into all of my jobs. I didn't ever set out to do any of the things.
Mhm. Mhm.
The fun thing is when Agile coaching became a job and people wanted, I had all this experience. And so now, fast forward, my current gig, and I've been doing this for what, about 15 years now. So my current gig, I am working with individuals to help them get out of their own way. I'm working with teams to help them learn how to play nice, improve their efficiencies. It sounds silly, but talk nicely to each other. It's like, where's the common sense, common decency? Um,
Mhm.
I'm working with the enterprise level, so helping create strategy and like roadmaps and long-term plans and things like that, helping them improve all the things that they do. And then right now I have 3 focus teams, 7 global teams, and 4 enterprise-wide teams. And I literally am the only person in this organization that knows all how all the pieces fit together, even though I've only been there 6 months. I have a
Yeah.
map that they're like, we had no idea. And so I'm able to pull these pieces together and help people see where their gaps are and then work with them to come up with solutions. And I think I'm the fourth or fifth coach they've had, but I'm the first one to last more than 4 months.
Mm.
And I'm the first one that's actually getting results
Mhm.
because I meet people where they're at. It's not like I come in and change their world, but I learn and then I ask questions and then I help them come up with their own solutions. But I might, because I've got such an interesting background, I might be able to pull something and give them examples from different walks of life. And I use cooking a lot as examples or like
Mhm.
real world family dynamics because it's all the same, just different environments.
Right. I love that. Holly, I think like everyone wants your job. I can't imagine not wanting your, it sounds like so fun, honestly. Although I can never report to anybody ever again because I'm I've gone too rogue. But your job sounds super fun and really fascinating. And one of the things you do it, I mean, these are difficult circumstances. These are not simple situations you're in. They're very complex situations that you're in. I know you've worked in very large organizations that are going through challenges, whether it's from the marketplace or for funding or for whatever it might be, and you do it always like I. Yes, the smile on your face all the time is just amazing. And I want to pull up a couple of poll questions because we want to talk today about living your best life at work, which is
Mhm.
something Polly demonstrates all the time. And so I'm going to launch a little poll here to the audience, asking you, what do you think is the biggest barrier to living your best life? Is it too much workload, lack of support, unclear goals, burnout, low energy? Okay. Okay. So the majority of answers we've got answers in all 4 areas, Polly, but the majority are coming in at lack of support and resources, lack of resources.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that when we don't have resources or support, it's hard to live our best life at work. Let me do another one. Um, which area of your work life would you most like to improve right now? Because I bet Paulie has some actionable ideas for these things. So we've got lack of resources was the biggest reason why people aren't living their best life. And an area they want to improve, we're getting answers in the first three areas. And it looks like they're pretty even across managing stress. Okay. So areas they want to improve are managing stress. That is actually the one that's ahead now the most. Finding more purpose in work and building better relationships. No one said boosting productivity. No one. I love that. Okay. So we're getting like a clear view now what's going on with everybody. Let's do one more question if that's okay, Polly. We're going to ask
Yeah,
one
do
more.
it.
Um, how do you currently feel about your work-life balance? And maybe Polly, I don't even know, do you talk about work-life balance that way? Or I know some people talk about it in different ways. But what people are saying here, like, how do you feel about just that? How work is fitting into your life is looks like doing okay, struggling. One person is thriving and has it dialed in. Yes. Wait, two
Nice.
people are thriving and have it dialed in. Yes. But the majority are saying they're doing okay, but there's room for improvement, or they're struggling to keep up. Okay, so struggling to keep up. Yeah, that's not a fun place to be. Or okay, okay is also not a fun place to be, right? Um, okay, so it sounds like if I look in general at our audience here today, when we think about living our best life at work, Polly, what we're struggling with is lack of resources and support at work. That is the one that by far people are struggling with the most. They don't feel supported. They don't have the resources to so that they can be their best. They struggle with managing stress. They would like to have more purpose and they want support in building better relationships. These all sound like check, check, check things that you can help with, Polly. And
Yeah.
then how do people feel about their balance right now? Some people are really struggling.
Mhm.
And then the other side of that is some are okay. Some and then again we had some that were thriving. So um that's kind of a background of what's happening with people on the call here today. If hearing that, what is your first impression like? What would you say to these poll answers that we had?
So when I first come into a client, I like to do an interview. And my current client, I actually interviewed about 120 people over the course of 6 weeks. And it might have been one-on-one or it might have been small group. And the common themes were we don't have enough people, money, or the right products, right? So resources and support to get our job done.
Mhm.
And the other one that was a close second that didn't get called out here is lack of clear priority, lack of clear direction, right? And so I'm going to tie this down to struggling to keep up because when there's lack of clarity, then nobody knows where to put the right attention to give you the resources and support you need. And often what I find is that people say, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Well, overwhelm is unclear or lack of clarity, right? And so when we start to ask questions about what feels overwhelming or what do you need more clarity on or what when we get leaders to create clear priorities, then they know how to give you the resources. And when you have that clarity, then you're able to better manage. And I can use my current client as an example of this. When I first started the previous quarter, they had 104 priorities.
Oh my God.
And then uh, what I came into and inherited, they had 79 priorities. And for the next quarterly planning, so for Q3 quarterly planning, my goal that I didn't state, but my goal was to have 30 priorities or less for the various teams that are working on this, which means each of them would have only had two or three things to work on for the quarter.
Yeah.
And I asked the leadership not to change their priorities. And they're like, "Well, we don't." I was able to show them from Q2 or Q1 and 2, they had changed 32 of their top 50 priorities in rank stat, which
Oof,
which rippled then through
very
all the
confusing.
teams, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so then there was no focus, which created that I don't know how to support you because I don't, and nobody could, everybody felt overwhelmed and they were struggling to make sure they were delivering the right things because they didn't know what the right things were.
right.
And I find decision making and lack of clarity on priorities tends to be something a lot of companies deal with, not just the ones that I work with.
Right, right.
And
I
so
hope if you on here can relate to this, please put a note in the chat or a question in the Q&A. We'll keep your names anonymous, but if you can relate to what Paulie's saying, like this overwhelm, this confusion, this changing of priorities, never knowing exactly how to hit a goal and how that can impact then your ability to do your best and live your best life. Yeah, yeah. Paulie, I sorry I interrupted, but I want to
no,
see
that's
if
good.
people have experience like that. Mhm.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, because if you think about it, lack of clarity, right? Lack of clear alignment on priorities is going to give you lack of purpose. It's going to
Mm,
cause you to not really know what direction you're supposed to go, which is going to make you feel uncertain, unstable, and it
mhm.
creates unnecessary stress, right? Because if we have uncertainty, it creates uncertainty within our body. Even if we feel like we're managing it well, our body is responding, and that creates another dynamic. And then that goes to the relationships piece as well, where people want to have good relationships, but when you feel uncertain, then it's difficult for you to build those relationships, to build those connections, and to feel confident. When you're holding back, people are like, "What are you hiding?" That doesn't build trust. And
Yeah.
so really getting that clarity, and even within a team, when I tell them, get really clear on what you want to accomplish as a team and bring that together, that helps people move forward and kind of, it builds trust within their small unit. Then and then people say, "I want that. What are you guys doing over there?" Which builds camaraderie and grassroots happen.
Oh my gosh, Polly. I think about what our people on the call responded with, like they would like to be able to manage their stress better. They would like to have a better sense of purpose and have better relationships. And all of that, like you were talking about, that lack of resources, that lack of clarity and alignment. Someone just wrote in and said, it's they can definitely relate and priorities keep changing on a regular basis, and not all the executives are on the same page with the priorities. So of course, then we're struggling to keep up. Of course, like we're doing okay, but it's not our best. We had another comment come in that changing priorities, very common problem with the teams being overwhelmed, lack of direction, feeling very frustrating. It's so frustrating when the executive team's not in alignment. It creates more chaos and friction. Well, Polly, what can we do? What can we do about this if we're in this situation and we aren't the leader? We can't be the CEO. We can't be, our company isn't smart enough to have a poly in-house to help us with this. Are there tools or any practices you recommend?
So one of the things that I do with my teams, and I've been doing this for years. If I hear a team complaining a lot
Mhm.
and pushing the responsibility outside themselves, I have them do a retro on, let's just say, the last 6 months. How are things going? Or a retro on what are your biggest obstacles preventing you from making the progress you'd like, right? And then of all the post-it notes, and I scribe, I do all the work, right? I just let them in their space to brainstorm. And then I affinitize these, I put them into categories, and then we go through them and we identify. And green is, we can actually take control of this. Yellow is, we can influence this. but we need to figure out who to work with to make this change. Red is there's absolutely nothing we can do. We're at the mercy of leadership.
Mhm.
Every time I've ever run that, there might be one thing that's red. There might be one or two things that's yellow, and most of it is green. And then I ask the team, look at all you have control over. But it feels like everything's happening to us. And when
Mm,
we shift gears and we start to look at how can I make my own world better? I can't change anyone else. I can only change myself. What do I want to do to help make things better?
mhm,
And then by doing that and looking at, okay, of all these things that are problems that are green, what do we want to focus on that will give us the biggest lift or the most improvement? And let's make that happen. And then usually what happens is when we make one improvement, it takes away a bunch of the other noise too, because these things are
yeah,
symptoms of a thing, right? And then
yeah,
teams are like, wow. And when you start to do that at the team level, and so what I do is I can see the teams, but I also see that overarching leadership. And
mhm,
and so I
mm,
do this at the variety of levels. It's really it makes an impact, but it's a little thing, right? It's that small thing, and what is one small little win, and then it starts to ripple, and people think we have to do all this big change everything. It's like no, no, and a lot of people think also. So I do change management, agile coaching. I've got a lot of doesn't matter what you call me. I go in and I make things better for companies
yeah, yeah,
by just asking questions because they've got
yeah,
what it takes.
yeah.
A lot
Well,
of companies have failed at this transformation stuff because they think that Agile's a silver bullet. No, there isn't one. Agile actually exposes your problems so that
mhm,
now we can
that makes
deal with
sense.
them, right?
Yeah,
And then the other thing that I like to tell people is there is no cookie cutter approach. So people want, including the current client, they said, well, we just want everybody to be working in the same way. And I said, okay, so every team is made up of the same people working on the same product, right? And they're like, well, no. I said, then there's no way they can all be working in the same way. But we can have consistent framework.
mhm.
Oh, there are no, I tell them cookie cutters are for cookies. And we need to just look at everybody as a unique individuals and the makeup. And one person might be a rock star on one team, but you pull them to another team and they might suck.
Right,
And
right.
that's okay. So
That's like, I was cooking last night and, I put soy sauce into my teriyaki, but probably what not would have not worked would have been to put Italian dressing into my teriyaki.
exactly. Or barbecue sauce.
So, yeah. So, with the individuals here, I'm wondering, can we do a little exercise like a green, yellow, red real quick and maybe just look at a green that is that okay,
Yeah.
Paulie? Okay. Do you wanna I'm just putting you on the spot. I'm like,
That's
facilitate this.
yeah, yeah. And so let's in the chat, why don't we just have people put some of the things that are your biggest hurdles? Like if you were to imagine and picture yourself in the job you're in right now and imagine the teams that you're working with or the people that you're working with. And I want you to think about what are some things that are holding you back from achieving your brilliance or from them seeing all that you could, all your potential. And just drop some words in the chat.
Mm, mhm. One thing I know I get to do a better job with, and I know Mimi and Lourdes would agree, is like I'm not a better job with, excuse me. It's like something that I wish would be faster and easier and happier for everybody is training people on the things in my head.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Right? That's one thing for me, but that's me being selfish. I'm thinking about, oh,
Well,
but what
and
do other
for
people
that
have?
example, I mean, so
Yeah.
here's how you take control of that, right? You have someone else facilitate the conversation. And so if I was coming in to facilitate that, we would look at what are the categories of things that you chunk your business, right? You've got your business has functions. And
Mhm.
so, what if we take that and you map out step by step and all the things, right? And this is what I
Mm.
do with teams when we're doing process improvement. So it
Yeah.
might be a form or whatever, and this is how we break down the work. And so we
Yeah.
chunk it out and we list the things and then all write all the stuff. Now the
Yeah.
outcome of that is a playbook.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's that easy. And Lourdes, Mimi, the rest of the crew, they could be part of that session so that they can ask the questions that you don't even know is up here,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but they know, oh, okay, so you said this, so now what about this? And then you can almost have like a flow chart of if this, then that, right? If
Yeah.
thens and yes
Yeah.
and no's and mhm.
Great point, great point. Oh, we had a couple, notes come in, Polly. Someone is asking or someone has shared that the biggest hurdle, that they have is being perceived that I have only a limited set of skills
Mhm.
because the leadership see me only for what they initially hired me for. So like a perception issues related to skills. And so perhaps this person isn't getting opportunities or isn't feeling challenged.
Yep. And I will tell you with this current client, well, and my previous client, actually several clients, I dealt with that where you get hired as a thing, right? And people
Mm.
have a box of this is the box you fit in. And I'm like, yeah, I like to blow the sides off a box. So what I start to do is I start to have conversations, ask questions, and sprinkle ideas, planting seeds, right? And then I start to, people start to notice, and then they start to share with other people, and they say, yeah, well, Polly taught us how. Or, and literally, I have people come up to me and say, hey, you did this thing for them. Can you help me do that thing? I'm like, sure. Now, all of a sudden, I'm known as the person who does that thing. And then people will come up and, right now, well, I thought you were just a team coach. I'm like, yeah, that's because that's the bucket that you guys have to hire people in. But really, here's all the things I'm doing and all the teams I'm working with. And so I kind of am a team coach. It just depends on what level you would consider the team because leadership is also a team. And they're like,
Mhm.
oh, and so
Mhm.
it's education from the inside, helping
Yeah.
people understand you're so much more than their limited box.
Yeah.
But you can't tell them because they're like, yeah, but you were hired for this. Uh-huh. And then I find ways to fit all these other things into their limited view so that then they start to broaden their perception of me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Hopefully that
I,
helps that person that asked who shared that hurdle. We have a couple other hurdles here too. So someone just wrote in and said they work in a small company. Their biggest limitation is they don't do things the same way that the owner would do them. Therefore, they are not doing them the right way. So again, it's a perception thing. Like, here's how so the person that wrote this, I'm imagining they're an outcome focused person, whereas
Mhm.
the owner is probably like a process focused person, right? And so these
Yeah.
things are not compatible. How would you answer that or talk a little bit about if that's the hurdle that you're not gelling with the owner like that, like
Mhm.
what
And
might someone
and
do?
again, the leader of the organization, I think I'd been there 2 weeks, and I made a statement, and I felt like if we were in a room, that person would have just slapped me because they
Yeah.
were so angry with my observation, right? And they lashed out. And after the meeting, a couple of other people who were on the
Oh,
call reached out to me and said, are you okay? And they said they've never,
I think we
and
talked that day
yeah, we did.
and you were
And
not having a good day that day.
no, and part of what happened was, and this is what I have to remember, part of what happens is when people grow up in their roles. So think about the owner of this company, it's their baby, right? So this leader that got defensive and reacted, it's because they couldn't see beyond the vision they had.
Mm.
And so I had to pause and look at where are they coming from? Now, there's a There's a technique in the what's the book called? It's the emotional intelligence 2.0 is a book that I love, and in there they talk about the eagle's view. So I know I had positive intent. I know what I was the message I was trying to convey. Now, if I put myself in the shoes of this leader that had this interesting reaction, I had to think, oh, well, I'm a coach. I represent change. This person actually, and I didn't know it at the time, was trying to do the things that I was brought in to do. But
Mm,
they didn't have the skills or the capability to take things to the level they need them. And so they were feeling like, well, if this is being revealed, is that going to make me look bad? If someone has a different way of doing things, is that going to make me look bad? Had nothing to do with me, even though I was feeling attacked. It had
right.
everything to do with what's going on within them. So, in order to bridge that gap, I had conversations with these two people that reached out to me. The funny thing is, one of them was my boss, and one of them was my boss's boss, and the person who lashed out was my boss's boss's boss. So the four levels were on this call,
Oh, God.
and so I worked with these two people to figure out what am I missing, and then they validated individually my
Mm,
perception after the fact. And I learned more about that person's communication style so that I could start to match that. So if I was in the position of how do I help an owner come along and see the possibilities, a couple of things. First of all, talking their talk, using their words. It seems like, but why do I have to go through that? Well, because if we start just doing our own thing, we're not bringing them on the journey. But if we meet them where they're at and we start to use their words, we start to go along and we start to find things that they've done that fit into our approach, now all of a sudden we're not doing something new. We're taking their work. And even in this case, I'll say, oh, yada yada said blah blah blah. And so here's how we can do that to make them happy. And so figuring out ways to make them shine, even though you're
yeah.
doing your own thing,
Yeah.
and that helps them become an advocate and see the brilliance. And then you can start to go off in these other directions that are the right way, and
Mhm,
they can see it's the right
mhm,
way. And then
mhm.
you can also show how we're going to grow and take their initial ideas and their work and how brilliant it was that they started this thing. And now you're helping create a legacy and they get the credit because people just want to be seen. And when we do something different, it makes them scared.
Yeah. 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 And so let me ask you, I have a borderline question here that's just a
Yeah.
little challenging, right? Because I've been in that position where I've had this is not a commentary on this person's comment who wrote in, and I don't know their situation. I don't know the person at all who wrote this in, but like I've been in a situation with a mediocre leader
Hmm.
and I've done the work to make them look good and they take credit for my ideas and they get the promotion and I'm still there. Um, how do you so is there a conflict? Like I'm thinking like a ethical principled conflict between like being helpful and not being a doormat. Like, is there anything you could share there, Polly?
Totally, totally. So long ago, I was in that position. And one of the things I've learned is to share broad and wide how or what I came up with, how I'm helping the teams. And to begin with, I felt like I was tooting my own horn and that's wrong. And then I thought, but if I don't, I'm going to continue to be overlooked. I'm going to continue to, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
so I realized I'm helping these people and that person doesn't have my all the stuff, right? So
Yeah.
they might take it, but they can't do what I do.
Mhm.
And so, twofold, making sure that everybody understands here's what I came up with, here's how we're doing it, and sharing broadly. And this morning, I was in a call, and a team was had some difficulties in a certain area. And rather than taking it as a difficulty and poor us, we've got all this stuff and yada yada, I'm like, what can we learn from it? And then turning that learning into, now how can this support the enterprise? And they came up with
Mhm.
all these ideas. I'm like, great. And who do we need to work with to do that? Okay, now I've got an idea and I'm going to get this team I'm coaching, because everybody knows I'm coaching this team, right? So I'm going to get this team I'm coaching in the spotlight. We've got 2 venues that they'll be able to share this with. And now everybody knows it was my coaching that got this. We're supporting everybody. And now I
Mhm.
am subtly, because I don't like the spotlight, but I need people to know they didn't do this on their own. They needed some
Yeah.
help. And
Yeah.
that's how I help bring that to life. So it's like when you subtly are able to share your ideas,
Yeah.
that screams volumes. And then this
Yeah.
other person that falls flat, they will eventually say, well, Kate came up with the idea and I was just kind of sharing it with everybody. And then all of a sudden the spotlight will shift where it's deserved.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you
I
for
don't know if
that.
that helps, but that's
That
what
is
I've done.
helpful. Yeah. I know we've only got about 15 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we
I
get
like
time.
this other one.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Leaders are saying to teams, go do agile and perform better, but the leaders are not making a mindset or behavior shift too. They continue to operate in their old manner. This is resulting in the organization and program operating in their different standards because inefficiencies and duplicity in things like meetings. And
Hmm.
this is a biggie, and this is what I deal with everywhere.
Yeah.
And when I go into clients, I will ask, are the leaders aligned with what you're asking to be done? And they will say yes. And then I say, give me examples. And then they give me these ideas, these examples that tell me there's no alignment. I'm not going to tell them that, but I know that. So now when I go in, because I have not seen an organization yet where leadership really understands what they've gotten themselves into. And one of the first things I do is I talk to people, and depending on where they are, I might talk to the C suite or I might talk to managers or whatever, right? But I ask them, what do you think this agile thing is? Because really, agile is a mindset. And the mindset is around collaboration, coordination, and communication. Where do we have gaps in that? And when I work with leadership and just talk to because people think agile is Scrum or Kanban,
Mhm.
or they think agile is Jira or ADO, right? They don't realize agile is just a mindset on how can we work more collaboratively together to get things done. And leaders want that. So when you
Mhm.
start to talk to leaders in words that they want, then all of a sudden they're able to start to hear, oh, oh, maybe we do want to be agile because they don't want to have to go and enter all their work into a Jira board. That's what
Mhm.
they're thinking. And they don't want to do it, right? I've got too much to do being in all these meetings, making decisions. To be honest, a lot of leaders don't know how to make strong decisions. They don't, and or stick to them, right? And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
it's really important that the leaders start to see what they're really wanting. And this tends to lead to cultural changes as well. And when you're talking about changing a culture, that's scary because a
Yeah.
lot of people have been in some of these companies for a very long time, decades. And now all of a sudden you're not just moving their cheese, you're melting it.
Mhm.
And they don't know what to do. And that's what's really going on is people feel scared. So how do we
Yeah.
help them feel more comfortable?
Yeah.
And so that is something that I do is work with leaders in every position I've had. I weasel my way up to the leadership row and I make sure that I'm working with them in a way that helps them feel like they're still in a leadership capacity and that they're going to be able, because part of it is they're afraid to change because I got here because of all this stuff. And if I
Mhm.
change,
Right.
am I really still a leader? And so helping
Right.
them understand why it's important for them to come on the journey with their team helps them shift their mindset and makes things
Mhm.
happen.
Mhm. Mhm.
I hope that was helpful.
Yeah. When at Get Her Hired, we encounter people typically that are coming to us from two directions. One is they've been in a reduction in force, or they're just not working right now for some reason. The other set are the people that are burnt out, take PTO so that they can relax for a week and get away. They're not even going on vacation. They just need to get away from the office for a week. They're burned out. Like what message do you have for them? And maybe talk a little bit about the book, because we're going to give away 3 signed copies of the book. We're going to select from attendees today and be in touch with you. Tell us a little bit, how could the book help someone who's in role but dying?
So this, and in our prep, you had said, how did you come up with the inspiration? So I'm going
Yeah.
to start there. The
Yeah.
inspiration came to me because my daughter regularly posts pictures of my grandchildren living their best life.
Oh.
And one of them that struck me, that was literally the inspiration for this book and my podcast, was the two of them at a diner, and the light was coming in the window, right? Light was, and it was like an old-fashioned picture of a little old lady and man, except that they were, what, 3 and 6 at the time. They had a big malt between them with 2 straws, and they were leaning up against the table on their respective sides, sharing a malt. And my daughter posted living their best lives. And I thought, it's so simple, but people think it takes so much to live into our best lives. And then when I was
Yeah.
talking to adults, they're like, I can't live my best life. I have bills and I have blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, they're looking at this big thing. I want the mansion. I want the yacht. I want the week-long trips around the world, whatever, right? And it doesn't take much to live into your best life. And so I use the word live into rather than live, just because when we're working into something, it's a journey. And so it's step by step. And so this book is really about each week, 52 weeks, you look at, and you can start from the beginning, or you can just pick a page and go from there. So let's see, week 23. Apologizing is a sign of good character and strength. An apology can validate you understand social boundaries and may rebuild trust in a relationship. And then I go on to say an apology can go a long way towards rebuilding trust and reducing stress. When you take the first step towards mending a relationship, you free yourself of emotional burden, and you may make the other person feel good too. Is there anything you may want to apologize for that has been left
Mm.
unsaid? What micro wins did you experience? Capture your thoughts, actions, and decisions daily. Now that's a simple one, where I don't believe in apologizing for the sake of making someone else happy, right? It needs to be something that, yeah, I screwed up and I want to own it. And sometimes it's apologizing to yourself for holding yourself at a higher level than or pushing yourself beyond what you really, those types of things. Um, I actually used this the other day, where I was told someone was complaining about me behind the scenes and asked, could you have a conversation, meet with this person, yada, yada. So, me being who I am, this person said hi to me. I said hi to them. They went into the lunchroom. I went in too. And I said, hey, I was just asked. And I just want to say, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to do this. And they looked at me. And the first thing, they didn't expect me to approach them,
Hmm.
let alone say, I'm sorry that you felt this way. I want to know, what did I miss that created this? And all of a sudden, they 180'd on everything that the other person said, that they said in a meeting. And now all of a sudden, it was on them because, they complained because they just wanted to complain. There's some other stuff going on. But in reality, and it built this goodwill, it built this new thing. Now this person reached out to me, sharing information that will help me in another way.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so as simple as, I truly was sorry that this person felt like they like I'd done something to slight them. and I didn't understand what it was. So I'm like, I am so sorry this happened. I need to know more. The very week one is I live by this, and it's why I have no problem talking to C-suite. I just Everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. And I know there's a few people on that have heard me say that before. So that's a Cliffism. That's my dad. He raised me that way. And that's week one. We are all people doing the best we can each day. When did you notice yourself being authentic in the presence of others, regardless of their position or status? What micro wins did you experience? And a
Mhm.
lot of times, especially at my current client, there's this hierarchy. And I take the approach everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. I don't care
Mhm.
if you're the CEO. If I wanted, that's how I got into project management. I walked into the CEO's office and I said, of a consulting firm, and I said, I need another computer. And he's like, Paulie, you already have three. And I said, I know, and they can't keep up with me. So either you need to give me another computer or you need to let me update everybody on Windows because I have a better computer at home than I have here. And he's like, all right. And that was the first project I ever ran. I updated the consulting firm's offices to be Windows and taught everybody how to use the software because I'd done it at home. I could do it anywhere, right? A lot of people that box. I was in HR, I was a recruiter. Why would I do something like that? But I took it
Yeah,
upon myself. I did it. I showed them, and that's how I got into project management for consulting.
that's amazing, Polly. It's so the message I'm getting with this is one that I know to be very true when I can stop and remember. So if I'm not in a space of protection and I'm in a space of grace and I can remember it, and that lesson being we get to create our own joy in the situation. And that's what matters most is that for me, I know like in my past, there were all sorts of things I thought I needed to have in order to be happy. And now I know I just like having a cup of coffee and a walk around the block, and that makes my day.
Yes. Yeah. It's And finding those little things, finding those little wins. I mean, a little
Mhm.
win for me today, I sat in on one of the team's stand-ups and someone who's always crabby and always correcting everyone, even if they were right and this person's not, didn't do that today. We had a
Oh,
great conversation yesterday and they didn't do that today. I'm like, yes. So anyways,
well, we've covered so much today, and I know that there's so much more you could share with us, Polly. But if you could leave us with one thought about personal growth, whether at home or in our career, what would that be?
um, remember to breathe because it's not your job to take care of everyone and everything.
Hmm.
It's it's really important that we realize what is our sphere and what can we delegate to others or let go because just because you think it should be done doesn't mean it needs to be done. And
Mhm.
just really get clear on what fills you up, what's going to create that space so that you can actually enjoy life.
Mhm. Thank you for that. Where can people learn more about you, your coaching, your book? Where can we send people?
My LinkedIn profile is a great place to start. I engage quite regularly. I'm also on Facebook and I have a group called Live Into Your Best Life. I have a podcast that I'll make sure you have the link to. And I would like to put this on my podcast so people can have that if you're
Oh,
okay with that. And then
absolutely.
and then also polyskaya.com. I have a site that people can learn a little more.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Polly, for being the bright light in our day today.
Thank you.
You helped me. By the way, I think you're going to be our team coach in the future. And because Get Her Hired needs, everyone needs a coach. We all need
Totally.
coaching. I just want to thank you so much. We are going to be in touch with people who are on the call today to get signed copies of your book out to them. So we'll be in touch with everyone on that. And if you're interested, we do this every couple of weeks coming up on September 4th. Just want to let everyone know that we're going to be talking with Dr. Tanya Jackman Hampton, and we're talking about working through fear when we are in fear at work. How can we work through that? And she is just an amazing woman and resource that I've recently met and super impressed with. She also has a great book out. So we'll be talking through that on September 4th if you'd like to join us again. Holly, thanks so much. And I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope everyone on the call has a beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye bye.